Hey guys, thanks for joining. We are continuing on. Now, I made a mistake when I first made my thumbnail. I put part 4. I forgot that the one I did a couple days ago was not part of this. It was just an extra one. So I'm not actually on part 4. I'm on part 3, but I fixed it everywhere else. But on my community post, I think it still says 4. So welcome everyone. I want to get through this one kind of without stopping much and chatting as usual. The reason I'm in such a rush is because I'm going through the motion for summary judgment. That's what the judge has before him to make a ruling on. And I would kind of like to get through it before he makes that ruling. So I'm trying to get through quickly, but the process that I'm taking is painstaking because I'm matching all of the exhibits where they go in this motion for summary judgment. And there's a reason I'm doing that. But before I talk about that, there's a line. Let's talk about my thumbnail. There's a line from the rooftop scene where Blake says, "I'm an unreliable narrator." And I feel like that is the most suitable thumbnail for this episode. Because about midway through, well, probably less than midway through, we're going to talk about these specific accusations about the things that Ryan said he said, the names that Ryan called him to WME and to the friends, and her accusations that he specifically wrote extra and more sexy scenes, insinuating that he was doing it just to kiss her more and feel her more and ogle her more. This is a serious accusation to make towards especially a married man, but to any man, or for a man to make to a woman. It's character destroying, it's reputation destroying. We're going to I did a lot of digging, some stuff beyond the unsealed documents. And I think you're going to be shocked to come across, or when you see what I came across and brought to you. So that's coming up in a moment. But we've not been able to distinguish for an absolute certainty. I mean, we all have our opinions, but we've not been able to have an absolute certainty about what was said or done up till now. But now we have all this unsealed evidence, and we're going to find out, I think. I think after you see what I found, sorry, you're going to be able to make a decision that you can feel absolutely certain of. But now for the way I'm going through this motion for summary judgment, I'm going through it in the way that it's meant to be read. I'm going through it in the way that the judge is supposed to read it while he makes his decision. So there's statements made, and then after the statements, there are exhibits listed. And that's what these unsealed things were, this mountain of evidence. So that's what I'm doing here. I read through the paragraph, and then I go to those exhibits to see what those exhibits say. Because like I said, that's how the judge is supposed to do it. It also helps give a much more complete picture. Because when I first started sifting through all of these unsealed documents, everything was here and there and everywhere. But this way, we put it in its proper context, and it helps us make the real story come to life of what really happened, what the claims are, what the defense is, in a reliable way backed up by evidence. Now, this summary judgment, as I've said all along, it is a magnificent piece of work. Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you so much. He says, "Hi, Miss Cassidy. Hello, mods and lovelies in the chat. These people are effing disgusting and need to be shunned from society." I think we all agree with you there, Ricardo. So, this is probably my favorite part of a whole lawsuit, trial, everything. Because this is where the case actually gets crafted. They've obtained all of the discovery, all of the depositions, they've subpoenaed all the text messages. They have everything. And now they start, after adding, now things are going to start getting cut down to become more concise and more trial ready. So this is the point where we actually get to see probably the most of discovery that we're going to get to see. Some of these things will not make it to the actual trial. So this is the most complete we're going to see. Now, if you missed parts 1 and 2, they are of course still up and they are labeled different titles, but they are labeled as parts 1 and 2. So you can catch up with anything that you've missed there. And as I said, this is actually part 3, even though the community post says 4. So we're picking up on page 20, and we've heard these accusations so many times, these struggle accusations, that because it's all she has, they keep getting repackaged, rephrased, and retyped. Normally, as a case progresses, discovery happens, and you come out with a lot more evidence from your lawsuit. We've seen this happen with Wayfarer, but unfortunately for Blake, it didn't happen for her. So what she's ended up having to do actually is, instead of being able to add a lot of evidence to her case to make it stronger, she's actually had to subtract a lot of her claims because things have come out to prove that it's not quite what she said it was. So what do they do? What did Wayfarer attorneys call it? Hyperbolic lawyer statements. They've got the same tired claims. So what can they do? They reword them and use spicier language. But to prove harassment, there's a 3-pronged standard. It has to meet that standard. None of those prongs are spicy words. They're actual legal standards, levels of things. They are words like pervasive, extreme. She doesn't have any of that. What does she have? She has accusations about someone complimenting her clothes, where she automatically jumped to, oh, he's talking about my boobs. Do you guys remember? Did you ever read about a time she was writing about her own nephew? And I didn't find it today because I was busy looking all this other stuff up, but her nephew, I believe, was only 4 years old. And she talked about him walking into a room where she was changing. And she made a comment about him looking at her. I'm sorry, 4-year-olds are not doing that. They're not doing that in a sexual way, okay? But she said she didn't know if she should feel flattered. Do you guys remember that? Did you see that? I thought that is so, so sick. A 4-year-old nephew, and you're saying this. It's whack. It sounds like she might need some therapy. That's how whack it is. But what else does she say? So in addition to this whole thing about somebody referring to her wardrobe as sexy on one occasion and that of another actor on another occasion, and that at one point he complimented her personal low-cut outfit. So these are the accusations, and we are talking about an actual, literal federal case. Now, there's been a long time expression of, oh, you're going to make a federal case out of it. This is that expression come to life. This is where we are. These kinds of things have led to an expensive, it's already been over a year now. It got bumped a little further, so it's going to carry on for another half a year and a half of this court's time and resources over nonsense like this. And as they said, these passing sporadic comments, while perhaps ill-advised, are not outrageously offensive in an environment where professionals are working closely together to make a deliberately sexually charged film. That sentence is going to play a vital role in this whole episode, and you'll see why very soon. So, and her next accusation is that Justin at times alluded to his own sexual and marital experiences. And they say such experiences are hardly surprising given that Lively and Baldoni were collaborating and communicating daily about how best to portray what? Various adult and marital things. So this is something we have to keep in mind because it's not a day at the office. It's a day making this kind of film, a film with sex in it, with marital themes in it. It's a grown up movie. So that must be taken into consideration. We also have to, sorry. Okay, sorry. I am, yeah, in the wrong spot in my notes. So taking a look at one of the references one of the exhibits that it takes us to is her second amended complaint. So and it's funny, if you look at her accusations from the very first complaint that was filed in California to the very first legal complaint that was part of this lawsuit, and then her amended one, and then her second amended one, and different declarations that she's made, they do change a little bit, and that's been out of necessity because, like I said, things have come up in the evidence that have made us really question her truthfulness about all this. So this particular one is from her second amended complaint, her most recent one that she made in order to bring Jed Wallace back into the lawsuit because he'd been dismissed. So it's these extra words that she throws in, the words that get used just drive me crazy. So Mr. Baldoni often, now we've seen in the accusations they listed, there are 3. Okay, it's not often, it's not happening all the time, it's not pervasive, but they throw this word in there because that 3-prong standard I told you about, one of the things is pervasive. And it has to be that this stuff has happened and happened and happened. It also cannot be something that you addressed and was fixed. So that's why they've resorted to throwing certain words in to make things worse than they actually were. So often referred to women, now it's women and not the outfit, in the workplace as sexy. When they expressed discomfort, Mr. Baldoni would deflect or try to pass it off. He told a female cast member that her leather pants looked sexy when she arrived to the set. When she rebuffed his comment because she was uncomfortable, rather than apologizing, he brushed it off with, "I can say that because my wife is here today." Now, let's see. Um, let's go down to the bottom one, 101. Miss Lively wore a low-cut dress. This makes me laugh. To facilitate breastfeeding. I didn't know that it was a requirement to breastfeed that you needed to wear a low-cut dress. I didn't know that Blake never in her life wore a low-cut dress until she was breastfeeding, and only when she's breastfeeding. But here we have it in this federal document. So I guess it must be true. So here's her interpretation of what happened. When the jacket briefly popped open at one point to reveal the dress, Mr. Baldoni commented about how much he liked her outfit. He didn't say, "I like your breasts." He didn't make a comment about her breasts. She doesn't even say he looked at her breasts. He said he liked her outfit. Later that day, Mr. Baldoni pressured Miss Lively, who was in her pre-approved wardrobe, to remove her coat in front of the crew and multiple background actors in a packed bar. He said that he wanted to see her onesie. Let me see. I can't see that. There's this thing that shows me the slides that cuts off the bottom of my screen. Under the coat, because it was zipped low to reveal her lace bra. Okay, there are a lot of things about this. Why was it zipped low? Did somebody make you zip your big, oversized fleece, not in the least bit sexy onesie? Did someone make you zip it low? You know, we've been We've been through this. He wanted her to take off the coat because the entire scene was about wearing these onesies to this bar to get a free or discounted drink. I can't remember. And I just can't make myself watch it again to get that little fact straight. All right, let's talk about some of this wording. Okay? Then it says, consistent with past practice. Again, these extra words to try to make it look like this was a pervasive situation, that this happened every time she turned around, he was saying it, when in fact there are 3 situations and one of them isn't even her. One is the onesie, one is the low-cut dress that she was just talking about, and we're gonna go into that in a moment, and then there was Jenny Slate and her pants, okay? He said, "I think you look sexy." He was trying to encourage a difficult actress to take off the coat that she wanted to wear through the scene. And that's what it was, okay? And then 102 is not listed as one of the exhibits, but I saw it when I was looking this part up, and I put it in here just because here's a lie right here. As a result of Mr. Baldoni's behavior on May 29th, 2023, another cast member lodged a harassment complaint against Justin's gross and unwanted comments towards her and others. Not others, one person. And this date is going to come up in a conversation we're going to read today. It was when you say lodged an SH harassment complaint in a legal filing. That means somebody actually submitted an actual complaint in writing formally. They know that. They also know that that didn't happen. There were no formal complaints filed by Blake, filed by Jenny, filed by anyone. This is a gross overstatement. It's an actual untruth. She did talk to Alex on May 29th, but she did not, and no one else, lodged a complaint. It's just extra spicy words they put in there, and they don't do it for the judge. The judge knows better. So it's in there for one reason and one reason only. It's to get the Blake apologist all worked up. And that's what it accomplishes. Okay. Now we're going to also look at her deposition. So this is another one of the exhibits that's put here. This is Blake describing that situation. So they ask her, I just want to walk through some of the other allegations of harassment. One of the things that's alleged in the amended complaint is, I believe that you're saying that Justin complimented your outfit. Is that correct? What does she say? I told you she's insufferable in her depositions. Just this hostile, uncooperative, bratty teenager type sort of answers. She says, no, no, that's it. Okay. So she makes this guy have to just like pull every word out of her mouth. Are you saying that one of the instances of harassment or something that made you otherwise uncomfortable was there was one day in which Justin commented how much he liked your outfit? Now, we saw those words in the complaint, did we not? Did we not just see that? What does she say? No. That's it. Just the bratty no, like you're trying to feed your toddler green beans and they don't want to eat them. Did Justin ever say anything inappropriate or that bothered you concerning an outfit that you wore? Okay, now she can't say. No, there was an incident that made me uncomfortable. Yes. And when was that incident? Late May of 2023. Okay, and so it was on the set, a bar where they were rehearsing. And then she says, I was wearing and then she stops herself because she has to add those extreme extra words to create either to make herself look vulnerable or to make him look gross. Okay, so in this case, she's instead of just going straight to I was wearing she's got to put this little excuse in there. I had a newborn baby. What does that have to do with anything? Absolutely nothing. Okay. And, I'm pointing to this not to be just petty about a word. I'm fussing about this because I want to highlight how this entire team regularly uses exaggerations or inflammatory language to make something sound worse than it is, or like I said, to make her look more vulnerable. Okay, and I don't think it's ever been put out there exactly when her son was born, that anybody knows the exact birth date. But this is February 12th, and here she stands posing with her mother-in-law and her husband. She's already in jeans. So I don't think she gave birth that day. This could be like up to 2 weeks after her birth. We don't He could have been born in January. He could have been born early February, but this is most likely not the day he was born, because a lot of her swelling is already down, and her tummy has gone down considerably already. So we don't know how long it's actually been from his birth, right? So, um, a newborn is a newborn from 0 to 3 months. Then there are 3 to 6, 6 to 9 in categories like that. So just to me, it just irritated me to throw that word in there just to, I don't know, garnish sympathy, just to it just signals something to women. Like we feel like, "Oh, poor thing." You know? And I think they do that a lot with their tricky words. So I'm not just being petty. I'm not just being picky. I'm making a point of the way that they trickily use words to garnish sympathy or make someone look worse than they are, depending on what the situation is. But it's also silly to me that she continues to say, I had a jacket on, and and you see her stammering here because she's trying to get the wording just right for her favor. That was covering my dress underneath, and I bent down to pick something up, and the jacket opened, and my dress was low cut because it was easier to feed my baby. Nonsense. If you want to wear a low cut dress, wear a low cut dress. I don't care. Nobody cares. Wear what you want to wear, but don't pretend that it was so that you could breastfeed your baby. Okay? This idea that she's suddenly trying to spin herself as this virgin queen, it's just ridiculous, and it goes against documented reality that we all know. Okay, and then she continues, um, or the questioning continues. What do you mean he made a gesture of his hand? Because she said that, let me, I was only reading the highlighted part, sorry. Um, so Justin said, I like your outfit. And he gestured at the chest. Okay, two things. Let's look at the first page where he says, I believe you're saying that Justin complimented your outfit. Is that correct? No. The very next page, 30 seconds later, she says, he said, I like your outfit. What in the world? What in the world? Is this It's nonsense. She forgot 30 seconds later what she even said, okay? Then, all right, let's talk about this gesturing at the chest. So he says, what do you mean? He made a gesture of his chest and said, I like your dress. Because as he said the sentence before, it's hard for the court reporter to mark it down if you're just gesturing. So if you're making some type of gesture for their sake, you have to say it, you have to describe it so that they can get it down correctly, so that later when it is being reviewed for legal purposes, that the whole idea is documented. Okay. So her answer, he gestured across the chest. That's not enough. Did he gesture across your chest or his chest? Here's her answer. He said, I like your outfit. That's not what he asked you. So he has to, again, I don't know, painstakingly go for something else. He moved his hand up and down, like above and below his chest or your chest. Because again, this has to be documented. She says, I was standing in front of him, so I don't know whose chest. But he didn't just touch my chest, if that's what you're getting at, or if that's what you're asking. I think you know when someone's gesturing at their own or at yours. Usually the palm faces the one. So he wants to get this very, very detailed because could be something, probably is something that she's going to have to talk about at the actual trial. So he wants a clear record of what she has to say, how she's going to describe it. So he says, was his arm closer to his chest or closer to your chest? Oh, now all of a sudden she doesn't recall. And this is something that I've seen a lot. I don't know how much you guys have seen of this unsealed stuff, but in her deposition, in Leslie Sloan's deposition, really a lot in Alex Sack's deposition. People, when those who are, a lot of them most of them that I've seen employees of hers, but they're ones that are definitely, you can see it's so obvious when someone is just doing their best to tell the truth in a deposition and when someone is doing their best to try to skew their answers in a certain bias. Okay. And the ones who are trying to keep things in someone's favor, they're the ones who struggle the most. And I think they've all been coached to say, I don't recall, I'm not sure, I don't know, when an answer is going to not be in the person's favor that they're trying to favor. And that's a big accusation to make. But on, on the same hand, I'm making it because it happens. We all know it happens. I mean, we've seen some of the bold-faced lies already. But like this situation. She can recall all of this, but she can't recall if you are in a situation where you feel threatened, you feel harassed in this manner. I think, at least for me, because I think most of us women have been in situations where we felt uncomfortable. We remember because it's a reaction about our whole body. And so it kind of seals it in our memory a little bit. And if someone put their hand close to your chest when you thought that they were referring to your chest, you're gonna remember that. But if he didn't, she doesn't want to say he didn't. She wants to say, I don't recall. Because just maybe that's on film and she's already been caught saying this and this and this happened. And then guess what? The film is there to prove that it didn't. So in this case, it becomes, I don't recall, which is a very convenient answer. But could it possibly be, and I know it must be hard for Blake to believe, that not every man is as impressed by her chest as she is. But according to the story that she told, she had a dress with a coat over it, and when she picked something up, one of the buttons opened a little bit, okay? What does that tell you about her outfit? That the only part of her outfit that he could see was where the coat opened. Where did it open? Her chest. How is he going to comment on the rest of your outfit that he can't see? So is it so far-fetched to think that he was merely gesturing to the area of the actual outfit that he could see? I mean, is that a possibility at all? And we've now heard, I don't know if you've all heard it, her ridiculously long voice message. And remember how the Blake apologists were going on and on and on about that voice message that Justin had left for her. It was several minutes long too, and it was late at night. Well, it turns out she left him a message like that too. She kept confiding in this man, and we're gonna see some of the things she confided in him in a little bit. She also kept talking about the insecurities that she had about her body, and over again, he tried to reassure her that she was fine. In none of the things that he said to her was he being flirtatious or saying anything inappropriate about her body. A friend, what he thought was a friend, was telling him her insecurities and her worries, and he was reassuring her. I think we've all been there. I think we've all had friends that maybe they were struggling with weight, or maybe they had just had a baby, and we knew they were insecure about it. And so we would say things to boost them up. So this guy thought they were friends because while she's having these, telling him she can talk better with him than she can her own husband, she's behind his back, like bad mouthing him, but he doesn't know that yet. He thinks she's sincere. He thinks they're getting close. He's spoken to her husband and asked her husband to come and do like couple family things together. He thinks they're friends because, in addition to all of this confiding that she's done, she's also reassured him by saying the words, "You are safe here." In addition, she has said a lot of stuff to him, confiding things. So the man thinks he can say this stuff without getting brought to federal court. He thought he was being nice. Okay? Can she not consider that a possibility? Okay. We're also about to see that she and Jenny both reveal intimate details about their own marriage beds. And it just brings out the hypocrisy about the stuff that they're accusing him of saying. But I think, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, sometimes, and I think this may be the case with Blake, that her own thinking or her own opinion of herself might be the problem, might need to be adjusted because sometimes people have their own mindset, the way they view things. If they're a jealous person, they think everybody else is jealous. If they talk bad about people behind their backs, they assume that everyone else is doing that. It's a type of projection that people do. With that in mind, what do we know about Blake? And I talked about it earlier about what she said about her own 4-year-old nephew. Poor kid. I hope she deletes it before he gets big enough for his friends to tease him about it. But here's an article, and they have scrubbed a lot of stuff off the internet because there were several articles that mentioned things that she had posted on Instagram or referred back to other articles, and those were gone, but they were in bigger magazine sites. And but this one is an article that was in a smaller, like a lot of these smaller type news sites, what they will do is they'll go see news on something bigger and then they'll put it in their little one. So when you're scrubbing the internet, you're looking for the Vogue and the bigger ones that she's done interviews with and said things, but you can't always find these little ones like this one. What's Up Hollywood? I've never heard of it. But this was Blake when she first became a mother. And the title of this article is Blake Lively, "My boobs are huge and awesome." And it's in quotes. That means she said it. Okay? All right, let's go find out under what context. Is it maybe something that's not as bad as it sounds? You be the judge of that. So she's had a baby and she's talking about she's filmed The Age of Adeline, which she got pregnant while she was filming this movie. And so and then it's about to come out. Okay. And by now she's had the baby. And so that becomes part of the conversation. The question, the beautiful question that this woman gets asked is, how has motherhood changed you? Now, Jamie spoke of motherhood in a respectful, almost holy way, and that offended these people. But let's look at how Blake speaks of motherhood. This is what has changed her. My boobs are huge and awesome. Laugh, laugh, laugh. That's probably the most significant change. Imagine you've just given birth to your first child, and the most significant change about becoming a mother is that your boobs are huge and awesome. You know, how about this journalist? Did she ask her consent before she spoke about her body parts? Did that woman sue her, drag her to federal court for this nonsense? Is this an isolated event? Of course not. That was in 2015. Here we got 7 years later. She's had 2 more kids since then. Blake Lively wants you to know her pregnancy did wonders for her breasts. She's still talking about it 3 kids later, and that's all she can talk about is her breasts. Blake Lively took to Instagram today to remind everyone that getting pregnant and then subsequently breastfeeding makes a woman's breast larger. More to the point, it has made Blake Lively's breasts larger. Now, both this Instagram, she took that down. As you see, when I click on the link, post isn't available. I wonder why she took that down and when she took that down. Because this is just a year before she started filming It Ends With Us. December 2022 is when she accused, or is when the incident where she accuses Justin of describing his junk that turned out to be just a conversation about circumcision as parents making the decision. So 3 months before that conversation that shocked and appalled her so badly, she made this statement on her own Instagram. Is that not crazy? And 2 years later, she brought this case to court. Sometimes I just feel speechless when I go through this. I'm just like, is this, am I dreaming? Because I have dreamed about this case a few times. So sometimes I feel like when I'm reading this, I'm like, am I dreaming? This can't be real. Okay. The next exhibits, because we're back to the summary judgment motion now. So exhibits 35, 36, and 38, and I highlight them in blue so if you were trying to follow along. So exhibit 35 is the script. Exhibit 36 is that flirty, yummy text. I can't stomach to hear or read that one more time, so we're going to skip that one. I think we all have that one memorized by now. And then we get to exhibit 38, which to me is the first in a series of things I'm about to show you that I feel like end this entire frivolous case. Because the accusations that he tried to get extra sex scenes put in, or that he added extra kisses, or extra any kind of display of affection, I think it's going to put an end to a lot of that, okay? She loves to attribute a lot of things to Sony. You've seen that. Because she got accused of just overstepping and doing the edit. Well, Sony wanted me to do that. A lot of these things, but let's look at the real things that Sony told her to do. We've already seen that 3 of them called her a terrorist. Or were they all 3 Sony, or am I counting in Jamil? I can't remember. But we've seen what Sony thought of her actions. They were not encouraging her to do this. Let's see what they were really telling her to do. This is one of the things that was just unsealed. And I'm so glad we finally get to see it. And I want to, at this moment, give a shout out to Clark and also to Carol. Clark is the Redditor. I think he's comes on YouTube now. He then not. I think I posted actually a link to the video where the two of them go live. So Carol is the one that does docket updates, that incredible website, and Clark is the one who is local, and so he goes to the courthouse whenever they time travel and burn CDs of the things, the videos and audios that we can't access from the website. So shout out to Clark and Carol, and I love that Carol spells her name with a K. But if you want to show your gratitude for their hard work, I linked that video so you can find out where to find them on YouTube, because they are just absolutely amazing. Carol is so organized. Actually, this unsealing is a nightmare to me. Some courthouses, I guess it's not common in federal court, but some courthouses, when things get unredacted, they will go back and replace them so that they're not a mess. So it's easy to find where everything goes. But the way these things were unloaded is just, it's a nightmare to a brain like mine. Like, I cannot stand it. I was like panicking when I was first looking at it, trying to figure out how I was going to make it make sense. Because for me, like, it's just not in me to just take them and just read them. I want to know the context of them. I want them to be organized. I want to know which documents they go with. So Carol took all the chaos out of there, and she's actually what inspired me to do it this way, to go through the summary judgment motion itself and put them in order. But it's beautiful. If you have not visited her website, it's an absolute must if you follow this case, because she did it so beautifully. Okay. So back to this. Let's read what Ange has to say. This is, you guys really should read this. This is in its entirety because this is addictive. I started to just like take this, but I ended up like going all through it, and I couldn't stop because her notes are hilarious. But this is the note. So she took the screenplay after Blake had, shall we say, vandalized it. This is Angie's notes about the changes and about the script itself. And she's got some really helpful notes. This woman knows what she's doing. So she says, the bigger question is, other than language, this does not read like an R-rated movie. Readers of the book, the biggest book of last year, and actually multiple years, are expecting some, and she puts it in capital letters because she wants to be heard, heat. What does she mean by heat? She wants it sexy. And in case I don't get that, she goes on. We just cannot have an R rating for language. That would be a huge mistake. I'm guessing the love scenes are still in process and have not been choreographed yet. Ultimately, and that, by the way, shows that the writing and the stuff that Justin was trying to do with the love scenes, she said, I signed on for a certain script. And he added, no, you didn't, you liar, because we got this woman who knows her stuff, who's from Sony, that knows that those things are not choreographed yet. Because like I said before, and when you read the script, you see it's very basic. It does not tell them all the body motions that they're going to be doing. So that's a lie coming from Blake. Those kinds of scenes are not written yet. Another example of lies. So she says, ultimately, that will be up to you and Blake to decide the specifics. I'm hoping they are sexy and grown up. I know they'll be tasteful, but I am asking you to also think about moments that are outside the actual bedroom. Remember the dance montage that they are supposed to be falling in love for, where Blake's just like, she just wanted to talk. She just wanted to talk. And it's like the brunt of her complaint, because he was nuzzling her and putting his face on her face and on her neck. Well, this is exactly what Ange is talking about. Outside the actual bedroom. Nobody's nobody expects a portion of a movie where you're seeing the couple falling in love, and not it doesn't even have to be a sexy movie, just a sweet little innocent rom-com. You expect there to be kissing and touching and hugging, okay? Moments that feel grown up and what? Oh my goodness. We better add Ange to this lawsuit. Sexy. She said, sexy. I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't mean to bring you trauma. Clutch your pearls and sniff your smelling salts, and I hope you're on your fainting couch because she just said sexy. I know I should have warned you first. So we deliver for an audience what that is expecting an R-rated movie. And she just made it clear that the R rating cannot be just for language. She wants it for the sex. She says, so you will tell me the plan for the lovemaking scenes when you know. Again, this tells you right there that the script that Blake was shown at the very beginning when she agreed to do the movie, those scenes were not there. So she's lying when she says, I signed up for this. First of all, you didn't sign. And secondly, no, you didn't, because it wasn't even ready yet. But please work to find the balance between sweet, funny, endearing with moments of real heat. There's that word again. Not only for the audience, but also so when the movie transitions into the abuse section, it does not feel like we switched from what? A rom-com into a drama. She wants it to be adult and heat and spice all the way through. Okay, and there's a reason she says a balance between sweet, funny, and endearing. Because Blake, for some reason, well, not for some reason, because she emulates her husband in everything. And also because I think Ryan had a whole lot more to do with all of this than just the rooftop scene. But their take on everything is humor, and their humor is not funny. She took a serious script and tried to Reynolds it up with this silly banter. These people are supposed to have this intense relationship, this whirlwind romance. They get married very fast. It's all passion. And she comes through and with raisin eyes. I just looked at the chat. I shouldn't have done that. With her raisin eyes husband, and tries to make it all full of banter and nonsense and things about maraschino cherries and stupid, stupid, stupid stuff. And this is what Ange is saying. She's like, grow it up. You've got a bunch of childish banter. And when you read this entire script, you'll see she keeps mentioning that over and over and over again in all of the scenes where they made it too silly. She wants them to correct. And I've noticed that a lot of the things they just absolutely ignore her on. And it's probably one of the reasons the movie turns out so stupid and was disappointing. A lot of people still went, they were going to go. That was a favorite book. But the reason why a lot of people had a lot of criticism for it, because they didn't go to see silly banter. Before I move on, this was the other incident. And I went to, so they filed this motion for summary judgment. And then, of course, the other side gets to respond with an opposition to it. And then they get to reply to that response. And then it ends there. So this, I am going to jump ahead for a moment. This is Wayfair's response to her opposition because, of course, she tried to explain her nonsensical claims. And they say that she strains to suggest her costume was revealing, but cannot dispute video footage showing that it was, in fact, an oversized fleece or a onesie. Nor can she show that this was a gendered attack Lively notes Spaldoni similarly referred to a male actor as pretty, while Lively herself joked about pimping another male actor to market the film. Imagine that. Imagine that if he had said something like that about her. Proclaimed that sexiness in the film is critical to its success and insisted upon the sexiness of her character's wardrobe on more than one occasion. Sexiness was indisputably used at times to describe a film devoted to adult themes, not invoked to pit one gender against the other. We know the scene. She didn't want to take off her coat. She was wearing a big, oversized fleece onesie. And at this point, you can tell because now we've seen the actual footage of this. You can see that Justin has had it. He looks frustrated. He looks hot. He looks tired, aggravated. And he's just had it. He, in no way, shape, or form, is ogling her or trying to see. The room is jam packed full of people. It's noisy. It's chaos. We now know because he said so that he has ADHD. That is a nightmare. That is a nightmare situation for a neurodivergent person. I promise you the last thing on his mind was trying to peek at her boobs. We could see his body language. As soon as that man could say cut, he was when he was acting, and he's a brilliant actor because when he would look at her, it was so convincing that he was in love with her. And then cut, and he could not get away from her fast enough. Wouldn't even look in her direction. Got away, got busy. This man was not in love with her or her boobs by any stretch of the imagination. And if he was looking, maybe he had questions because I'm looking and I have questions. But that's very naughty of me to say that. So, please forgive me. But, like I said earlier, he knew that she was self-conscious about her body. It was obvious. She was wearing layers of pants, layers of shirts, huge coats. We know when we see somebody doing that, that they are trying to hide their body. There's no doubt about that. And maybe she didn't wanna take that onesie off, and she got mad because he told her to. But here's the thing, in every situation that she claims that something like this happened, it's usually right around an embarrassment or him telling her no. Like, she gets mad in that moment, she's upset in that moment. She's mad about not getting her way or about getting embarrassed because he also told her she had something on her teeth. Normal people are grateful to find out. I mean, if I'm gonna go somewhere and I've just, like, had a salad or something, I'll turn to my husband and show him my teeth and ask him, "Do I have anything on my teeth?" Most of us are grateful when someone tells us that so we don't go around and make a fool of ourselves in front of a bunch of people with something green on our teeth. So, but apparently, if you're very, very thin-skinned, that for some reason is devastatingly humiliating. I don't understand why. But she was mad. She wanted to wear her coat. He made her take it off. He told her she had something in her teeth. So she felt uncomfortable and upset in that situation. And so she turns it into harassment. And I feel like this is every case where she has an accusation that it was something like that. Very, very textbook. And several people I've seen before in comments before, and I apologize, I'm not looking at comments because this one is very, very long, and I wanna try to keep it as not long as I can. But I've in previous lives, I've seen people talk about this. So I am not qualified medically in any way, shape, or form. I am not diagnosing anyone, but I've seen a lot of these comments made, not just in my comments, but on X and on Instagram. And I saw this and I thought it does look very familiar to some of the situations we've been reading about. So I'm not going to add my opinion. I am just going to read these out. I'm not diagnosing anyone with anything. So this one says, what triggers narcissistic rage? 1, their self-esteem or image has been harmed. 2, they did not get their way. 3, they are criticized. 4, they are no longer the center of attention. 5, they're exposed for their behaviors. 6, they are asked to be accountable for their actions. 7, they face a setback, disappointment, or conflict. 8, they feel a loss of control. And then the next one says, narcissists react to criticism like they just got acid thrown in their face. Their egos can't handle it. They are extremely sensitive when it comes to their own feelings, but have absolutely no empathy for anyone else's. Narcissists are sadistic. They enjoy putting other people down. It makes them feel superior. So, like I said, I'm not going to add any of my own comments to that. I just saw that and wanted to share it with you because it's not something I know a whole lot about, but I have been reading a little bit more about it. Okay, jumping back to the summary judgment motion. And this is about, again, this review is about her saying that he referred to her wardrobe on one occasion and that of another actor on another occasion, and then complimented her low-cut outfit, that the breastfeeding dress. The breastfeeding dress, guys. Let's start a clothing line of breastfeeding clothes now that we know what we need to do to make it a breastfeeding dress. But as she says here, perhaps ill-advised, they're not outrageously offensive in an environment where professionals are working closely together to make a deliberately sexually charged film. Oh, I think I read this before. So, but I'm getting to the exhibits now. So, 88 is a good example of what I said about Blake not being a reliable storyteller. So, any description of any conversation that she tells, to me, it's very suspicious until it's confirmed by the other party, or we see it in actual print, or we see it on an actual video, because there have been too many times where her telling of an event is not what happened when the actual evidence comes out. So she insists or she says that Justin insists that women give birth naked and that his wife had ripped her clothes off during labor. He claimed it was not normal for women to remain in their hospital gowns while giving birth. I don't want to say that's what Justin said, that he said it's not normal, or did he just say, my wife did this? Who knows what he actually said. But she disagreed. And this here is taken from her second amended complaint. So these are her words. This is what she claims happened. She disagreed, but felt forced into a compromise that she would be naked from below the chest down. She was not naked. She was meant to look like she was giving birth. I don't know, maybe Blake gave birth in snow pants? I don't know. But from what I understand about how birth happens, you have to take your pants off. And any portrayal of a movie that does not portray that would be laughed at. It would be ridiculous. But the fact is, she was not naked. We know she had a big old prosthetic belly. And here's how she describes it. So again, wording to just make it sound ridiculous. They don't even say she would simulate nudity from below the chest down. They say she would be, to make it like she was up there, feet in stirrups, naked. It's such a mischaracterization on purpose. But the footnote says generally, nudity below the waist in a film utilizes a small piece of, this is important, nude fabric glued around the female actor's genitalia to provide some minimal privacy without disturbing the shot. Okay. Nude, right? And what did Wayfarer say all along? They said she was wearing a pair of black underwear under her prosthetic belly. Well, we now have the footage. What do you guys see? And I know you didn't want to look here. I didn't want to look here either on this lovely Thursday afternoon, but here we are. We see a pair of black underwear because it's not just down there covering her lady bits. It's also up on her hip. Do you see black? So, this fabric they keep talking about being glued on her that they described as nude, that is not what was here. Another thing I noticed about this scene is about poor Mr. Adam. This man, I looked up his credentials on IMDb. This man has more acting experience than the rest of the crew, the entire crew put together. It's mostly live acting, so it's not someone we've seen all over Hollywood. He does some Hollywood stuff, but he's done a lot of live acting, plays and things like that. It's amazing, like his education and stuff. It's so much more than Blake holds. And yet she has chosen to attack this man and make him sound like a perv because he took this role. And what's his only crime? That he's Justin's friend. I don't know how many times they have said that Justin hired his friend to play the OBGYN. Yeah, this shot wasn't in the movie. They cut that kind of stuff because they wouldn't expose this much of her. This is the raw footage that they put as evidence to prove that she was not what in the condition that she states she was in. So yeah, you don't even see this on the movie. They show just the top of her. Okay, but I want to note something about Adam because how many times has she said that he was all up in between her legs, very close to her lady bits? Look at how far back this man is sitting. I don't know about you guys, but I have never seen a gynecologist this far back when he's working. They are all up in your business. This man is not. Look at her legs. Look at where her feet are. And we know she's tall. She's got some long legs. He's further back than her feet even reach. That is not where doctors sit when they're delivering a baby. And where is he looking? He is looking up at her. He's not, oh, yay, I'm so glad Justin gave me this part so I can sit here and look at her. Like she has made it out to be. It's so gross the way they have twisted facts to make things seem worse than they actually were. So justice for Adam. This man was not there being a perv. This man was doing the job that he was hired to do, and that is all he was doing. But I think because this scene was filmed pretty early on. It's one of the first things that was filmed. So this is the time period where she's feeling super, super insecure about her body. And I think that's at the heart of this. I honestly do. She felt self-conscious. And so I don't know, that it was her own mind making her feel uncomfortable because no one is doing what they said she's doing here. Let's move on because there's a whole lot more. Now we go back to this exhibit in her second amended complaint. Here's another absolutely disgusting, messed up, untrue accusation that she makes. On the first day of production, Justin and Jamie described their past sexual relationships to Miss Lively, including that that one of them used to hook up with a woman. Justin said that he decided the woman wasn't the one, so then Mr. Heath had gotten together with her. Miss Lively found this description of passing along a woman to be disrespectful and disturbing. Okay, this is in Blake's deluded mind, and this is the truth. This is Jamie's deposition. They ask, "Did Justin date your wife at some point?" No. He never dated her? No. Did you date his wife? No. Have you ever told anyone that Justin dated your wife? Here's the actual story. Justin met my wife at a salsa club, invited her to the very thing that I had mentioned because he had just mentioned a party that Justin held that a bunch of people in the business came to that were of the same faith. And I think he described that's where they started to be close. But that's what he means by, what I just mentioned. So this gathering he was doing. And for about 5 minutes, they kind of wondered, you're good looking. You're good looking. They hung out for a little bit. Was it a date? That became a joke that nothing transpired other than that little moment where they looked at each other and thought each other was good looking. And that became a joke that I joke with him that he dated my wife. There was no passing around of a woman. What a despicable, disgusting story. This is the story of how they met and fell in love, and she turned it into this. And it's really hypocritical because of how her and her husband met and the circumstances of that. She was a person involved in sharing someone else's spouse. Every accusation is an admission with these people. And she is an unreliable storyteller. Okay, now we get to 96. Justin and Jamie often spoke of their previous, I know YouTube does not like this word, so I'm going to call it corn. I feel stupid saying that, but I do not want to get, hidden in the algorithm because what I'm going to share later is really important to get out there. So their previous corn addiction, Jamie is like, let's be clear. I never said I had this. I never had this. This is something Justin said, but just like other things, they get grouped in, and she has suddenly grouped Jamie into this when this was Justin's experience that he's talked about on his podcast. He's talked about it in his books, and he does it not to be gross and pervy, but to talk about the damage that it does and to try to help other young men to not end up in the same situation he was. Okay, so our virgin queen hoped to shut the subject down. She said to him privately that she had never seen it. Later, when Mr. Baldoni was once again referencing his experiences, he revealed in front of other cast and crew that Blake had never seen it. And so she felt her privacy had been invaded and all of that, trauma that she keeps going through. But why was this topic brought up? That's what's going to be very surprising, I think, when we do get to that. This is very important. Fair warning here. It's not stuff even I feel comfortable talking about publicly. I've never talked about anything like this publicly, but for this case, we have to. We have to understand what this accusation is, where she got this accusation, and what was actually happening. So I'm going to be reading from the source of script writings and notes and things like that, not in a gratuitous way. I'm not a perv. Don't add me to your lawsuit, Blake, but in a factual way, because like I said, this is important. All right. So these are Justin's notes, and they're notes of when he sat down by himself because Blake wasn't interested in meeting with her, if you remember, with the intimacy coordinator. They sat down and discussed the choreography of these intimate scenes. Exactly how Ange referred to it is how this goes. So you have a basic script, then it has scenes like this, and some directors just do this on their own. But he, and it's not standard, he chose to do this, hired an intimacy coordinator, and he met with her. He invited Blake to the meeting. She didn't want to do it. These are the notes that he and this professional woman came up with to choreograph the scenes in the movie that, as we saw, Sony was pushing for an R rating. Now, if you know what an R-rated movie looks like, you know that you're going to have things like what we see here. But there's some really important things that are mentioned here. Now, I'm not going to read all these words off of these notes, but I hope you guys are reading them so that you can see how intimate this, well, not intimate, how sexy their conversation was because of what they were about to portray in their scene. You see a lot of words there. I hope you're looking because I don't want to say them. I don't know what they'll do to my algorithm. And, I've, like I said, I've never talked to the public about these kinds of words. So there is a purple arrow there at the bottom right. Do you see that? And he has the O word, and then he has the test. Thank you, Mr. Husselheim. I'm starting to get a little bit sweaty because I feel uncomfortable, but I've got to do this. Thank you so much. Cassidy cracked the case again. Amazing work. We're about to crack it, guys. So this expression here, the, and then part of the body, I'm going to spell it because I don't want to make YouTube mad. The CLIT test. What is that? Well, I found out what it is. It's a legit site. It's a legit thing. He was not Ricardo Cassidy After Dark. Yes, he did not make this up. On the left is the actual Instagram account. You can go there, you can check it out. They call themselves, and this is how they do, their bio on their Instagram says it's a campaign to raise the bar for the sex we see on screen as seen in Vogue, and then it names some other things. The campaign. So this was an actual campaign, and it wrapped up in 2022. This is what Justin, and I don't know if he already knew about this or if this is what the intimacy coordinator introduced to him. But this is where that came from. He didn't make this up. Then on the right is their website. And this is what they say: raising the bar for the sex we see on screen. So they used this. And this is Vogue, British Vogue, writing about it, calling it a test for sex scenes. What is it all about? This is inside the British Vogue's article. Okay, so what they say, and I don't have all of it here, all of there, it's you can look this up for yourselves. Search it. It's called the C test, but it's all about what it's a foundation of women, and they felt that Hollywood was actually harming people's lives, having a bad impact on women's lives because it portrayed everything from the male lens. So it completely ignored certain things about women. It was all they said every time you saw a sex scene in movies or on TV, it was all just from a male lens, for what pleases men, and never ever ever introduced what pleases women, what it actually takes to please a woman. And so they said this impacted women's lives because it didn't help men out to know. They look at that and think, oh, this is all I got to do. It didn't, and it harmed women because women felt ashamed of themselves, like, "Oh, I'm broken because this is how it's supposed to be for women, and it doesn't happen that way for me, so something's wrong with me." So you got women faking, and you got women feeling ashamed and being frustrated, and these women step forward to say, "We" what does it say? "It's an outdated nonsense we can easily fix." And so what they did is they had this test to create a standard to say, does it pass our test? Does it realistically portray what pleases a woman? And I am sweating so hard because I'm so uncomfortable. But this is important. Okay. And so their campaign was to improve the way things are portrayed, to take it away from men and put it, guess what they say? Right here. Here's where they're testing Bridgerton. And this is what they would do. They would get these movies and TV shows that had these kinds of scenes in them, and they would rate them to try to bring up the standard. For what? What do you see in green? The female gaze. How many times did Blake mock Justin for saying that? He didn't make that up. He got it from this campaign that's out there to help women, and she criticized it. She had an opportunity to join in this campaign for the benefit of women, and she turned it down. She turned him into a perp. I do hate it too, Katie. Katie says I do hate that phrase, female gaze, but this is what the women of this campaign named it. So all of this time, all of this criticism that Blake has leveled at him, and all of her apologists came up and, "Oh, he's such a pervert. Look at what he wanted to do. Oh, he wanted to portray this and he wanted to portray that." No, he didn't. He wanted to be, another word I hate is woke, but he and we she always forgets that there was a female intimacy coordinator that was giving him the notes. They wanted to do this. They wanted to do this. And how did she take it? Here's from her deposition. She says, or is this I think this is from, yes, this is from her deposition. "When I said that the scenes felt pornographic, who brought up the P word? Who brought it up? Did he just sit there and go, 'Hey, guess what, Blake? I used to be addicted to the P word.' That would be creepy. That would be gross. I would be on here telling him he's a gross perv too. But that's not what happened. He is trying to be an adult, and he's trying to do his job as her director, as the only person who bothered to go meet with the intimacy coordinator. He has to take the notes to her home to show her what the intimacy coordinator came up with. And she's like, "Oh, that's corn." She brought it up. Okay, and shared with me that he, as he put it, had been previously addicted to it, and so he understood it very well, and that the scenes were not okay. Now we get some background as to why did he say he used to be addicted to it? So he could say, "No, this is not that." But instead, they were told through the female gaze because this is what women wanted to see. So how many times have we seen this sentence? "Oh, they're told through the female gaze because this is what women wanted to see." And a part of me, when I read that the first time, I was like, a little bit like, why is a man telling a woman what a woman wants to see? But I always, when I find myself, because I am an advocate for women, I support women. So there were moments when through all of this, I was like, oof, okay. Um, but I always tell myself, she is not a reliable narrator. So let's wait and see what really happened before we pass any judgment. So Justin was not like she's trying to make it, telling her, this is what a female gaze is, little lady. I'll tell you what it is. I'm a man. I know what it is. That is not what happened. He was telling her based on his own notes with the intimacy coordinator, the research that he did into this campaign of what these women who organized this campaign are saying. This is what we want to see in movies. And they're actually rating them based on how well they come to that criteria. So it was completely not what Blake was trying to say that it was. What a completely different situation to what she made it out to be. This man said, I'm a former addict, and so I know what females want to see, and this is what females want to see. No, not at all. Not at all. And again, she had a chance to do something that a women's movement was trying to do to benefit women. And she shot it down. She's like, "Oh, no, I don't want to do that." And what's really strange to me is that Blake has done plenty of sex scenes in her career. And she had no problem with doing the ones that are the ones from a man's. She had no problem at all showing a man's pleasure. Showing it from the male lens. But when she's asked to do it, she has a chance to represent women and do something to help women. Oh, that's dirty. I can't do that. But no problem. So who is the misogynist? Who is the misogynist? I'm absolutely fine showing a man's pleasure. Oh, but not a woman's. That's dirty. They accuse us constantly of being misogynists and saying we're unaware of our misogyny. What is this? You think I want to be talking about this to you guys? I feel so embarrassed. But I understand that I've taken on this YouTube, and so I have to talk about this. She signed on to do a movie that included this kind of stuff, and then she doesn't want to do it. You got to grow up and you got to accept what you have agreed to do and what you have taken on, and you got to do it, and you got to do it like a grown up. Okay, Belle, Cassidy's corn channel and Justin's voice. Thank you, you silly person. But do you see what I'm saying? They call us misogynists. I'm not the one condemning this movement. She's the one calling this something that women made. She's the one calling it something dirty. And now this is back to her First Amendment complaint. They say in here, Blake did not refuse to meet with the film's intimacy coordinator. She did not need to meet with her before production started because there were no intimate scenes in the immediate future, so they could talk once production began. And then look at this. Justin has blamed the intimacy coordinator for supposedly writing graphic news scenes, including, okay, you can read that for yourself. And talking about a C word. Okay, you've seen the evidence now. You know better now. You know that this is an incorrect take on it all. And I want to say too, looking back at these notes, now I've highlighted a different part. Notice it says sex in Vegas, and over here it says Vegas again. Do you remember what happened to the Vegas scene? The Vegas scene was supposed to be the very first thing filmed. And what was it? It was their wedding and their honeymoon. It was supposed to be the sexiest of the whole thing. And she was really uncomfortable and she asked, "Can we put those later so it gives me more time to lose some weight?" And then it couldn't be arranged because he said it's not just up to me. Locations have been fixed. It involves other cast and crew. And in the end, he wasn't able to do it. And so what does she do? She doesn't show up. So they are twisting the fact that it didn't get filmed with the fact that they said no intimate scenes were scheduled in the immediate future. That's an absolute lie. That was the very first scene that was scheduled to be filmed. And she was already rewriting the script. Why was she rewriting a script that involved these scenes without meeting with the intimacy coordinator first? So there was no excuse for her to have not met. And then because she didn't meet, now he was stuck taking these kinds of notes to her apartment because God forbid the woman have to go to work like everybody else. Justin had to keep running to her home over and over again. Clothes were being brought to her home because she couldn't be bothered to go to work. But now he's got to take these notes and go sit in her home and say this stuff to her. And then she treats it like he's trying to get her to film a P movie. Because it's all just too filthy for her. But like I said, she's fine showing a man's pleasure. But it's so filthy to do anything to show a woman's pleasure. Misogyny at its finest. Here's more proof that it wasn't Justin trying to be a pervert. All throughout Angie's script, as I said, go through and read this. It's a funny read too, because like I said, she keeps telling her to tone down the banter and the silliness. She's like, grown up, grown up, grown up. But here's what she says. Let's see, I think this must be the night after Jenny Slate's character's birthday party, and they go up to Ryle's apartment, or he lives next door. They go next door to his apartment. Okay. So this is a steamy scene, right? And they cut out these scenes that Blake has written for the characters. She says, I so, in capital letters, I so wish he could say something, actually, also capital letters, romantic before the first kiss. Pause, in capital letters. She's trying so hard to get through to this juvenile writer who has taken over the script. Pause the banter and playing cool or playing awkward. So she's like, stop this banter, stop this silliness, stop this awkwardness. And what does she say? Have a grown up romantic moment for our first kiss. You can see her frustration with the script. It is not a comedy. It is not supposed to be, it's supposed to be an intense love story with passion and grown-up themes. And she's Ryan Reynoldsing the script. Silly banter. That's all these two can do. Then she says, we need these very few moments of heat, sex to play. Ultimately, I'd love if you could give these two scenes a bit more thought. What does she end with? Want it to be grown up. So this was not coming from Justin. This was coming from Ange, from Sony, saying it's not hot enough. It's silly. It's juvenile. Adult it up. Put some romance. Put some heat. And if this is to both of them. And he's the director being instructed what's his responsibility to do. And so he tries, as her boss, as her director, he tries to take his direction, his orders from above and pass them on to her. And she is just not having it. And she takes it and turns it into, "You're a pervert, and you're harassing me, and I need to sue you." And here we are now. Hold on just one second, guys. Okay, what else does she say? "These montage beats as written, in process I know." So she's like, "I know they're not done and had to beat the deadline." She's like, "Okay, I understand it's rushed, but they are all," in capitals again, "very PG. Can we please, please, all in caps, mix it up so we have both?" She is literally begging for them to change up and spice up the script. This was not Justin. He was doing his job. He was following the direction, not just of his someone above him, but women. This was a woman, and the intimacy coordinator was a woman. He's the unfortunate one that had to relay this to Blake and to get Blake to do this. And so he's the one that gets sued for it. This lawsuit is ridiculous. What a ridiculous waste of court time and money. And they had to do this through the longest federal government strike in history. And that courthouse was having to handle all of this nonsense at the time. And this has nothing to do with the topic, but I noticed this when I was going through the script, and I just had to bring this up because it is so disturbing. All along, I've said, and most of you, I think, have also said, that we felt like Blake couldn't separate herself from the character, that she just became the character or the character became her. This is absolute proof. This is one of the lines she added, and Ange she didn't even comment. She just scratched this out. She's like, no. "You should know I suffer from toxic masculinity." Where have we seen that before? This is how she describes herself over and over again. She doesn't cry. She doesn't this. She doesn't that. She has toxic masculinity. Now, all of a sudden, Lily, the character, has toxic masculinity. And Ange is just like, no, she doesn't. And just crosses it out. Instead of reading the book and becoming the character, which is literally the actor's job, she takes the character and makes it become Blake. It's bizarre. She rewrote the script to become her and Ryan. And that is not an actor's job. It's so bizarre. Like, this is so frustrating that how did these people get the amount of power that they have? How are they able to do that? And this is who they are. Now, turning back to Justin's First Amendment complaint, here's how he describes it. And you just feel so sorry for him because she's brought these complaints against him, and now we know what really happened. We know why he was asking for more heat, and we know where he got these lines like the female gaze. So he says, or this is his timeline from his First Amendment complaint. Baldoni meets with the intimacy coordinator to discuss how to shoot the sex scenes. It was important to him that the intimacy coordinator be a woman to help craft sex scenes that would speak to the book's mostly female audience. For example, be written for, now this is in quotes for a reason, now we know why. Because he got this quote from someone else. He didn't make this up. From the female gaze. His notes from this meeting are pictured below and were later shared with Lively during one of their script writing meetings at her New York apartment. These notes would later become the basis for Lively's complaint, in which she states that Baldoni would talk about his own sex life and insert gratuitous scenes with Lively's character owing These mentions come directly from the intimacy coordinator's notes. And then it puts those words, and you saw them in the notes. Things that she thought were so dirty because they portray a woman's pleasure and not a man's. The misogynistic, toxic masculinity of it all. Ideally, these conversations would have taken place directly between Lively and the intimacy coordinator. He said it twice, directly twice. As Justin had requested. However, Blake declined to meet with her, leaving Justin in the less than ideal position, the poor man, of having to relay these notes to Blake in her penthouse. Poor man indeed. Do you guys get it? Does this hit you like it hit me? I was like, this solves the case right here. This explains everything. And the way they have worded it to make him look like this pervert, this sex-crazed pervert that just wanted every possible moment he could possibly get to kiss her an extra time or to touch her neck or to ogle her. None of that is true. And all of this is evidence to prove what really happened. And it's her own hangups that twisted this. And here we are, over a year later into this federal case. It is crazy. Absolutely crazy. It is embarrassing. Now we're going to get into, wow, it's already been an hour and 38 minutes. Now we're going to get into texts between Jenny Slate and Blake. This is Exhibit 95 from the MSG. And what she's doing here, and I cut off a lot of it. I would highly recommend going back and reading this entire conversation, but just taking the specific things that relate to this particular part of the motion. What she's doing here basically is manipulating Jenny. She wants Jenny to go and make a complaint, and she's encouraging her. And this conversation, we see this part of it is at 11:09. And they've already been having the conversation. Jenny goes to bed through the course of this conversation. And Blake is up to almost 1 a.m. texting her, coaching her on what to say because she's talked her into meeting with Alex to voice some concerns, not lodge an official complaint, mind you, to voice some concerns about some situations that her only situation is the ridiculous one about Jamie and the one about the leather pants. And this is the conversation. And you can just see the manipulation of Blake trying to talk Jenny into doing this. Okay. And Jenny says, I don't need to say anything except my feelings about the recording incident and my anxiety about the WGA stuff. Okay. The recording is, there was an early like rehearsal sort of read that was done. They did it over Zoom. And it was Blake and Jenny and Justin. And they say that they didn't find out until the end that they were being recorded. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, a little bit more, but we're going to focus on this conversation first. She says, I'm running through my head now, all the things that I've said that I shouldn't have said. Well, what do you know? Jenny Slate actually is able to have a little self-reflection here. And let's find out what some of the things are that she said that she shouldn't have said in a moment. She said, maybe I somehow opened the door. This is the self-reflection that Blake could never have. Blake can forget all of the things that she said first and that her husband said first. The ball busting comments, talking about them working out and they're going to have banging bods. Not just herself, she was talking about Justin there too. Commenting on his bod, describing it as banging, which means somebody sees it, wants to have sex with it. Okay? So she forgets all the stuff she has said that maybe opened the door. But at least Jenny Slate, I'll give that to her. She recognized that it's a possibility that she could have opened the door. She says, "I can certainly run blue," blue being, sexy, in my own comments about my own life. Yes, you can, and we're about to see that. And I now wish I'd just never said anything. If only Blake could have this kind of self-reflection, she would have ended up exactly like Jenny, who at her deposition said, "Yes, this made me uncomfortable, but we dealt with it, and I didn't feel the need to file a complaint or join the lawsuit because I felt it had been handled." She came to that conclusion because she realized this, what she just said. Blake will never come to that conclusion. Blake's like, "I think you say it all." See, Jenny's like, "Well, I'm just going to say this." And then Jenny takes a little bit of she takes some of the blame. She's like, maybe I did this. Maybe I started this." Blake's not having it. "I think you say it all." Do you see what I mean? She's manipulating her. And she knows that she is the much bigger star in this cast and that it's easy to manipulate these other people. And so she does. And they all fall for it. Okay, so here's more of the conversation. Blake's still going, "I think it's important you mention the Airbnb situation and how Jamie made you feel after." Jamie gave her $15,000 to give her to get a better apartment. And he said, "Because you're a mother." And that offended these women so badly. Again, never mind the fact that Blake's biggest change in motherhood was that her boobs got big and awesome. Do you guys remember that? Okay, but Jamie saying that he respects mothers, we better go complain. We better turn him in. We better forbid him from being ever on the set again. And you better file this complaint. And she keeps on. "Oh, remember you felt this way. You said this, you said that. I think you're spooked about the WGA. That's the impending writer strike." She's like, this isn't what it is. This isn't it." She's telling her what she's upset about. You're not you're getting hung up on this, but that's not it. So she doesn't want her to mention that because she's afraid that Sony will think, "Oh, this is her big concern." She wants her to focus on this behavior. And Jenny says, "I agree about just mentioning the interpersonal dynamics as the source of the dysfunction. I see what you're saying about just making it about WGA stuff. The central issue is about their behavior for sure." So now she's changed her mind. She successfully changed what Jenny is going to say to Alex at her brunch the next day. Right there. It happened. And then we find something very surprising here. Jenny says, "I truly am so sorry that I made that remark about our tiny bedroom in our poopy Airbnb. I think back on it now, referencing that it was bad for sex." What? They're fussing about Jamie saying that they prioritize mothers when she said what to Jamie? She said to her boss, "My apartment is garbage. I need a better apartment." Why? Because this one is bad for sex. Who is inappropriate here? That may be the reason she wanted a different apartment, but that's not what you go to your boss and say, for heaven's sake. And if you do go to your boss and say such things, how are you gonna be squeamish about someone saying that your pants are sexy? Good grief. And why is she apologizing to Blake? This is even more interesting. Just realizing that this is way inappropriate to say. Yes, it is, Jenny. And I hope that you know that I know that it wasn't the settling for that kind of remark. I don't know if I read that right. And also, now knowing that you guys sleep as a family, it must have just seemed like such a bummer judgment. So apparently, Jenny was fussing because she's got a little baby too, and her apartment's really small. And so apparently she's referencing something to do with the baby being in the room, and that's bad for sex. And now she's apologizing to Blake because now she's like, "Oh, that must have seemed like I'm judging you because you sleep with your children." And that's a horrifying thought of the man who made his daughter say what he made her say, but I'll try to not delve too deep into that. I'm sure you all are in the same place where I am right now thinking about that, but I'm so sorry. I definitely have no judgment on it, but I'm sure it seemed that way. Regarding our bed, it just works for me. Not at all trying to say it's what we should all be doing. Wish I hadn't said it. Okay, so she said this and it made Blake feel embarrassed, I guess, because she was saying this is bad, but this is what Blake does. Apparently, they've already had the conversation, and she says, "As you say, we move on." And Blake said something earlier, "Oh, well, women have a safer place, and where it's not like when you're talking to men. It's oh no, wait, that's coming up." So we move on. So she said this remark, and all is forgiven, strictly because she's a woman. And Blake's like, "Oh my gosh, no worries at all. I mean it at all, at all. You don't need to revisit anything that's been said. That's so generous of you to say this, but it's not necessary. Don't stress about any of it. I'm not going to sue you because you're a woman." The truth is, dynamics are different with women and men. This is what this woman has just said. This woman, whose entire lawsuit is about gender, being treated differently because of your gender, is now treating people differently because of their gender. It is maddening. And there's a safety with women that there isn't with men. Who is the person that's distinguishing genders here? That has a double standard for men and women here. That the thing that she's accusing these guys of doing and being. Also, they had screwed you on your living situation and you had to ask for something better. Now listen to this. Casually making a joke about sex was likely a subconscious way of playing to your audience. Who is the audience? Men. Justin and Jamie. The men. If the guy who could authorize moving could empathize with you and your family would be out of there, it all tracks. Do you recognize what she's saying here? She's saying, "Oh, it's okay to casually make a joke about sex. It's okay to talk to your boss about sex. It's okay to talk to a colleague about sex because he's just they're just silly old men. And if you want to get your way, if you want to get your apartment changed, you've got to play to your audience. You've got to say the only language these men understand because they are just men. You've got to mention sex." Because that's the only way to get them to empathize with you. This is what that statement means. Play to your audience, casually make a joke about sex. This is the way we got to talk to these men who all they think about is sex. If we want something out of them, we got to talk about sex. So what you said is just fine. So here's a woman being a brat about the place she lives in, demanding to be moved, throwing sex around, and that's just fine with Blake. But when her boss, as the director of the movie, comes to her with notes from the intimacy coordinator to talk about their literal job for the movie they're about to film, he's a pervert. He's a predator. And he needs to go to jail and he needs to be sued. What in the world? Do you guys see? This is crazy. Yes, Veronica, she's telling her that it's okay to use sex. Because it's you got to play to your audience. That's all these guys are going to understand. Makes no sense at all. And then with all this talk, so Jenny's the one who spoke inappropriately in front of all of them. She's the one who said all of this that and was insulting to Blake's situation, but somehow out of all of this, who becomes the villain? Blows my mind. It's Justin. Also, in the moment, it actually wasn't you that was strange. It was Justin. You didn't know we all sleep in bed together. He did. But he's not the one that said anything. And my next point, how, pray tell, did Justin know what went on in your marital bed, Blake? How did he know that? She told him that. She had to have already told him that. Why was she talking about this? Why had she told him that? If he's so inappropriate and such a predator and made her so uncomfortable from the first day they met, why did she tell this man how her and her husband sleep? Why did he know this intimate information? I'll tell you this, I have no idea how my friends or even my sisters sleep in bed together. Not a clue, none of my business. Never asked, never told my situation, never will. Why did Justin Baldoni know how Blake and Ryan sleep? And when you open up these situations, these conversations with someone, you cannot sue the person for responding in like and talking about theirs. Except he talked about his in a work setting, talking about filming a sex scene, not these casual chats. And then there was no way that Justin was going to walk away from this conversation unscathed. There was nothing he could have done that he was going to be able to walk away and she wasn't going to find something to say. Because she says, and when you said that, he said, oh, yeah, terrible for sex. And so she's just so upset about that. Let's talk about that line. He wasn't talking to you, Blake. He wasn't talking about you, Blake. He kept it quiet what he knew about your marital bed. He was talking to Jenny. Jenny was the one bringing an issue to them. Jenny was the one that just splurted that out. He was probably a little taken aback by it. And they were trying to solve a problem for Jenny. So, of course, his comment was for Jenny. He agreed with Jenny. They were trying to make Jenny happy. So he just said, oh, yeah, terrible for sex. He probably didn't know what to say. He didn't say, oh, well, Blake and her family sleep together. He didn't do that. He just spoke to Jenny and agreed with Jenny and tried to make Jenny happy. And then Blake goes on, it was so odd that he said that instead of just laughing like I did. Laughing? If he had laughed, we would be reading an entirely different complaint that talked about him laughing, because then it would have been he was laughing at her because he knew that that was her situation. Like I said, there was no way for him to walk away from this and not her not be mad in some way. If he laughed, it would have been worse. I think that's way worse. He pretended he didn't know anything. He didn't say anything. He was taking care of Jenny in that moment. But Blake's got to turn it all around. And she thinks that every moment of this man's life, he was thinking about her. She's just absolutely certain that in this moment, that's what came to Justin's head. That, oh, how Blake sleeps. He was taking care of Jenny. Get over yourself, Blake. This is crazy. All right. There was so much on that page. I really went off, didn't I? Let me see if I missed anything. No, I think I got all that. That one stuck in my head. So I was able to follow that pretty well. Okay. So now we're back to the summary judgment motion. Lively also claims that Jamie Heath, Wayfair's CEO, and one of the film's producers momentarily glanced at her naked upper body after she permitted him to come into her trailer while she was having body makeup removed. And the exhibit we're going to look at is the second amended complaint um of Blake's. And Lively says she instructed Heath not to look at her, but at some point during their brief conversation, he glanced at her through a mirror. Whatever fleeting mishap may or may not have occurred is being characterized as sinister only in retrospect. At the time, Lively said, "I know you weren't trying to cop a look." And we've heard that. We've heard that so many times. So let's take a look at some of these exhibits because this is another one of those scenes. Hold on just one quick second. Sorry, my mouth's getting dry and I didn't want to drink in my mic. So this is one of those scenes that has always been iffy to me. And now it's even more suspicious because we have several depositions. We have Blake describing the situation over and over again in different complaints. And now we have some depositions of people who were eyewitnesses. Again, one thing that's important to keep in mind is that these people are employees. And remember, I said people that you can tell when someone is trying to skew their testimony. This is, oh, before I get to the depositions, that was, this. And now this is the second amended complaint. There's another description of it. Rather than an ordinary meeting time and place, Mr. Heath arrived unannounced at Miss Lively's hair and makeup trailer while she was topless and having body makeup removed by makeup artists. Miss Lively told Mr. Heath that she was almost done and they could meet once she was clothed. Mr. Heath, however, insisted that if she did not allow him into her trailer to speak to him at that moment, there would be no meeting with the other producers. I'm sure that's misconstrued, but we'll find out when he actually gets to testify. Miss Lively reluctantly agreed, but asked that Mr. Heath keep his back turned. A few minutes into the conversation, Blake noticed that Jamie was staring directly at her while she was topless. When she called him out, Mr. Heath brushed it off as a habit of wanting to look at a person while speaking to them. And he maintains that he doesn't remember even looking at her. So it was a subconscious thing while he was having this. Okay, Lively also, wait. Oh, that's the same one. Okay, so that first one was that exhibit, and now we're moving on to the next exhibit I see now. So this deposition, she describes it this time as saying, now this is her deposition, she's speaking. So this isn't something that her attorneys put on paper. This is her voice being questioned during her deposition, how she recalls the situation. She said they asked, did he came into your trailer? And she said he attempted to come in. And we stopped him from coming in. I want you to keep that point in mind because we're going to see a couple different depositions. And we've already read this worded differently. He attempted to come in. We stopped him from coming in. Okay, and then they talk, a question that I had before too is like, where was your security? You've got security with you all the time. How did this happen? And so they have a little conversation about that. And then, so they're talking about why he was at the trailer. We were meant to have a production meeting that night, and we see her stammer. And we know when we see her stammer, something's up because the rest of the time she's not stammering. He came to my trailer we were going to have a production meeting in my trailer, and he came to the hair and makeup trailer. So this isn't her trailer. This is the hair and makeup trailer. So this is something that got cleared up with this. And as I was getting my body makeup removed and my wig off, and so that I could wrap out hair and makeup, and then I could then go into my own trailer and I have a meeting with them. So he didn't walk into her trailer. This is hair and makeup trailer. He unexpectedly came to my trailer, knocked on the door. Okay, now remember this. Knocked on the door. Said, we've got to talk. I said, we can't talk right now. I'll be there in a few minutes. I'm getting done as fast as I can. He says, oh no, we got to talk now. I said, I'll meet you in there in a minute. I'm getting undressed. He said, if we don't meet now, we can't do the meeting. So I said, okay, fine. You can come in. This is Blake's voice describing it. He didn't barge in. They stopped him. Remember, he attempted to come in. She stopped him. They talked through the door, and she said, okay, fine. You can come in. And I'm assuming that whatever state of undress she was in, she would have covered before she let him come in. Keep this in mind. And he came in and I said, okay, you can come in, but please don't look. Can you turn around? So he turned around and he faced the wall. And as I'm having this negotiation with him, I turn to him and he's staring straight at me. He's no longer facing the wall. He's staring straight at me. And I said, Jamie, what are you doing? You said you would turn around. Oh, sorry. I like to make contact with people when I talk to them. But as it turns out, he's not looking directly at her. She's got her back turned. They're working on her and it's through the mirror. Now keep Blake's deposition in mind because we're going to read these other people's dep. This is Vivian Baker. Okay. Let's see what you got for us, Vivian. She says, there was a time that he came to enter and there were myself and Anne, and Blake was like, no, I'm not dressed. No, don't come in. Do you recall whether there was a knock on the door by Jamie? My memory is vague. I think there was a knock. Then what I remember most specifically is all three of us. So there must have been a knock saying, no, don't come in. No, don't come in. It was quite loud so that they wouldn't come in. It was myself, Anne, and all Blake saying it, and Anne and all Blake saying it at the same time. I think she meant Blake all. So they asked Miss Lively, yourself, and Miss Carroll all heard a knock and said loudly, don't come into the trailer. Mouthing many times, yeah, no, not now. You're not, like each person participated in the, don't come in. Question at that point in time, did you know who was at the door? No. What happened next? They came in. Is that what Blake said? Is that what Blake said? Okay. And was Miss Lively, can you describe for me, set the scene for me, where you were, where Miss Lively was? Miss Lively had come in and removed her clothes, and they were handed out the door to costume or someone there that they could take to costume. And I believe she was only in underwear, and she sat down in the chair, remember that? And she had the baby. The baby was given to her. So this woman has her sitting down in the chair breastfeeding. So one boob's covered. And then the knock came on the door and we said, no, don't come in. So she was quite scantily clad because we'd just removed her costume and we were going to clean her up. Let's see. Let me get to the... So they ask, so at this point in time, Miss Lively is wearing underwear, but no other clothing. She says that's correct. And her breasts were exposed. Absolutely. But I don't know. In other things, they say she was feeding her baby. Where was Miss Lively facing? Was she facing the door? Was she facing the mirror? Somewhere else? She was facing the mirror. She was standing? No, she was seated. She was seated. Okay. At this point in time, did you have an understanding of who entered the trailer? After they opened the door, we all saw that it was Jamie. That's not what Blake said. Blake said she had a conversation with Jamie about the meeting. She knew exactly who it was and said, okay, you can come in. That's not what this person says. And Blake said, I don't remember exactly what he said, but, and then there's a page missing. I don't know why. And they asked, can you describe for me what you recall about the occasion on which Mr. Heath arrived to Miss Lively's hair and makeup trailer? And then she's like, you want me to describe what? And then Oh, wait. No, I think am I in Anne? Yes, this is Anne's deposition now. Okay. So this is Anne's description of what happened. We've got two that already don't match each other. Now we're getting a third. Let's see if it matches either one of them. Okay, Blake was having body makeup done in the trailer by Vivian. We heard the door open. Now all of a sudden it opened and went, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it was Jamie at the door. I had grabbed a cutting cape, which was over my chair, and held it up to try to cover her. And Blake said, whoa, 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 don't come in. And he said, it will only take a second. And that's when all this action was happening. He stayed in the trailer. They had the discussion and he left. She just completely eliminates the part about the knock at the door. And this one's covering her up with a cape. The other one, I must have missed it. She said that she put a cloth, like a washcloth, over her chest. So here's my question too. They talk about they're having this conversation with Jamie, and all of a sudden she looks up and notices Jamie's looking at her. Okay, you've asked him in at this point. Why have you not covered yourself? And one lady says she covered your chest with a washcloth. This lady says she covered you with the body makeup cape or cutting cape. How are you saying that you were still naked and Jamie was staring at you? None of this makes sense. Okay, and then they asked, did Mr. Heath abide by the protocol knocking on the door? Okay, where's the part? Oh, okay, good. There's more. I'm like, I know there's something missing here. Okay, did Jamie ask for permission to open the door into Miss Lively's private hair and makeup trailer? No. That's not what Blake said. So this is the third deposition. I just saw someone ask. So we read Blake's. Then we read Vivian's. Now we're reading Anne's, and they're all talking about the same moment, but they all three have different stories. Okay, so and then they're asking, were you speaking loudly? Like, is there a way Jamie didn't hear you? I'll say no. And she said, I believe we were speaking loudly. So you had an understanding that Mr. Heath heard you when you said something to the effect of whoa, 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 as he was entering her private hair and makeup trailer. And she said, yes. And did Jamie nevertheless open the door to the hair and makeup trailer? She says, yes. That's not what Blake said. That's not what the other one said. They said he knocked. Now, at this point in time, where was Miss Lively situated in the hair and makeup trailer? This one says she was towards the far right of the trailer standing. How is it so different? The other lady said she was sitting there breastfeeding her baby. Now this one has her standing. And which direction was Miss Lively facing when she was standing in the trailer? Oh, that I don't recall. What was Miss Lively wearing? Nothing, or a nude thong. One of the two. Miss Lively's breasts were exposed in that moment? Yes. In spite of the fact that I said I covered her with a cutting cape and the other lady said she covered her with a cloth, she just stayed naked. Yes. I don't know what to think after something like this. I mean, what do you think after something like this? So they review Mr. Heath walked into her trailer while she was unclothed without knocking, without permission, correct? Yes. It's not what Blake said. And that was after you and the others loudly tried to stop Jamie from entering the trailer. We verbally said, whoa, 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 yes. Don't come in? Yeah, I don't remember saying don't come in, but we were like, whoa, 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 just a minute, warning him. And at that point, Mr. Heath stayed. Is that right? Yes. Blake said they had a conversation through the door and she invited him in. This lady has him already in and Blake's standing there naked. And where was Mr. Heath standing for the remainder of his time at the trailer? I'm not completely, my back was to him, so he was behind me. And was your back to Mr. Heath because you were standing with a cloth to cover Miss Lively for modesty? And then that page is missing for some reason. I would have liked to have heard the answer to that because Blake claims that she was sitting there still naked and Jamie was just ogling her. Was she standing? Was she sitting? Was she covered? Was she breastfeeding? What was happening here? And how do we ever find out the truth? Because we've got 4 different stories. We got Jamie's story, Blake's story, Vivian's story, and Anne's story, and not one of them match. Craziness. Absolute craziness. Okay. And now we come back to the motion. What was I looking at? Okay, so just showing we're going to exhibit 4. This is Jamie's deposition. She then said, also, when you came, this is them talking when she talks to him about it. She then said, also, when you came into the trailer a couple of weeks ago, I asked you to look away. And at some point, what did she say? You made eye contact with me. This is her deposition. This is not what she said back then. She's repeating what she said back then, that Justin and Jamie have contended that she said all along, or have held that she said all along. And now she's actually repeating it in her deposition, that what she said was, you made eye contact with me. Now, in these other things, she says he was staring at her breasts. What happened here? And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. She says, I'm not saying you were trying to cop look. And we know that she said that. There were witnesses to her saying that. I'm just saying that I had asked you to turn away and you made eye contact with me. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize that. Maybe I happened to glance through conversation. I have no memory of it. And then she moved on to the next and then proceeded to sue him in court for it. And it's eye contact. Yes, the MSJ opposition, that's what I'm saying. They take those words and they upgrade them and twist them to make them sound worse, because then it became gawked. On her latest complaint, it was or the opposition, it was gawked. So ridiculous. All right, and this is Alex Sachs' deposition, and this is the most maddening deposition of any. Well, I don't know, Leslie Sloan's is pretty well up there too, but this woman conveniently cannot remember anything except for a few key points that she wants to make sure and bring forward. And isn't this the woman who has moved on to a project with Blake since this, which makes, to me, her deposition very, very suspect, because I think Blake and Ryan handed out a lot of favors in this situation. And I stand by that remark. So this is the one that Jenny spoke to after Blake coached her all night in text messages. And talked about the whole, even though she had said what she said to Justin and Jamie, her bosses, about her apartment, she goes running to Alex to say that they said this about motherhood, right? And this is one of the few things that Alex conveniently could remember. She says, I don't remember exact language that was used, but there were a few. One was that in a scene, I believe the week prior, Justin had commented on her physical appearance, which made her uncomfortable. That in an initial creative Zoom meeting between Justin, Blake, and Jenny and Blake only found out at the very end of the Zoom that Justin had been recording it the whole time. And that made both Blake and Jenny, from Jenny's, and then there's a little gap here. So this is what Jenny spoke to Alex about. And this is why there was no formal complaint made. Because there was no reason to escalate this or investigate this. That's all it was. And then she says, it was something to the effect of, we gave you more than maybe we normally would have, because this is the comment that Jamie had said that made her so angry. We gave you more than maybe we normally would have because we prioritized women with families and children. That's what Jamie did so wrong. When she came and said, "This is bad for my sex," that was fine. But Jamie said, "We gave you we more than we normally do because we prioritize women with families and children." My goodness, keep this man off the set. He's dangerous. How is this in a federal court? Back to the Zoom meeting. I wondered about this because I use Zoom quite often. Here is the truth about a Zoom meeting and recording. Zoom, and this is directly from the Zoom site, Zoom will always notify meeting participants that a meeting is being recorded. If you're joining by the app, the screen will display a recording consent disclaimer that you probably have to click OK on. If you join audio by phone, you will hear an audio prompt when they first join the meeting that it is already being recorded at the time the recording is started. It is enabled for all users on a Zoom client by default and can't be disabled or customized. There is no way in this world these women can claim that they didn't know that that Zoom meeting was being recorded. This is from Zoom directly. What a pack of liars. And that's why, like I said, if you missed the beginning, in the rooftop scene, one of Blake's lines is, "I'm an unreliable narrator." And I thought it was the absolute perfect line for this because now we see. Do you guys have a better understanding of because I don't know about you guys, but as a woman, there were sometimes some things were said and I was like, was he really that? Was he really that? And I never thought he did it out of malice or to be a perv, but I thought, what if, sometimes with ADHD, stuff flies out of your mouth that you wish you hadn't said. And I mean, not even people who don't have ADHD, but it is a very real thing. It is not an excuse that was drummed up to explain it. It is a really real thing. Like when you are nervous, sometimes you just want to have a gag or something over your mouth to keep you from saying something stupid because you're going to do it. So a part of me was like, maybe something was said. And then I was always like, nope, she's not a reliable narrator. I want to see the other side of this. I want to see the evidence of this. And now there is no doubt in my mind, considering all the stuff we looked at today, what actually happened on the set. And I just really, really hope that the judge is going through this motion in the same way that we are here together, looking up all of these exhibits and ruminating on them, because that's what he's supposed to do. Not just read the motion, but to read the motion and look up all of these exhibits the way we're doing it. And it's time consuming, it's long, it's painstakingly difficult. And I'm making it easier because I'm looking it all up in advance and clipping it here for you. But like this, I've been working on this episode for, wow, what day? Sunday was my last live. I started on it as soon as I finished my live. And then Monday I worked on it all day. Tuesday I had to go get my passport done. And I worked on it all day yesterday and today until I came live. Like to look up all these things, that's what it takes. So if you don't do that though, and if you just read the motion by itself and then read Michael Gottlieb's motion, who is like the Bible to Judge Lyman for some reason, you're going to miss all this. So I really, really hope that he and his clerks are doing it this way. And doing it this way, all the evidence is there. It's unquestionable to me at this point. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. So sorry for ignoring you all through the chat. If you have any questions that you had put out there that I didn't see, Um, please ask them now or forever hold your peace. Thank you, Ricardo, again. Thank you, Mr. Hustleham. And thank you, Kay Bella. And thank who's in here today? Christina. I saw Christina. If I didn't see the others, sorry about that. I'm just looking for any questions. Any more live corn chat? I don't know. Today, my this is the first episode of mine that's ever got an R rating, I think. So I'm sorry if I traumatized you all. I'm waiting for your subpoenas. Thank you, Jill. Love you, Cassidy. Love you guys. It's so fun to do this with you guys, and that was difficult. But you know what? I'm a grown up. I can have grown up conversations. It's just too bad Blake couldn't, or we wouldn't be here. So, all right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Buckle up, Buttercup says, I wish a few of the legal analysts that I see around YouTube wouldn't just assume this judge is going to be 100% fair. They haven't followed the case for over a year like many of us. I want to know the, yeah. And then again, I understand because they're out as attorneys and they don't want to be seen as criticizing a federal judge. And I don't criticize them for that at all. I am really happy that some of my favorites have been really finally honing in on the Van Zandt thing, that stuff that we talked about last year, a long time ago. But I'm glad that they're finally getting to it now, and I'm so happy to see. And it's stuff that I told you a long time ago, and but it people take it better from them. So I'm very, very glad that they finally started to talk about it. Oh my lord, that cracks me up every time. We'll never get old. Cassidy, your video yesterday was magnificent. Thank you so much. Ricardo, thank you so much, as always, for Cassidy After Dark subscription. Yeah, I probably should have done this one later in the day, huh? That was tough. I gotta go take a shower now. Anyway, thank you guys. You're absolutely wonderful. And I will try my best to get to the next part. I really want to get this out. Every day I keep checking to see if he has made his ruling, because I'm like, I don't want him to make the ruling before I get through all of this with you, because then a lot of these points will just be moot because they'll already be decided. And there's so much to talk about in this. Like, we're really seeing his case unfold here this way. But thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I will see you soon.